Good day everyone, and if you're new here on my channel, please consider subscribing, especially if you like this new background. Let's jump right into it. Hola amigos, this is Daryl Versosa and welcome back to yet another video. So for today's video, we will be discussing about tips to level up your photography. So the main reason that I created this video is because of your positive feedbacks on my photos uploaded on my Facebook page. And yes, we are already on 10k likes and 10k followers, which then gives me this feels that I should share with you the ways and the guidelines I apply from my shooting experience. First thing that I need you to remember though is that there is no right or wrong on taking photos. In my opinion, it all depends on how you make it. Which leads us to our very first tip, which is being confident with your shots. So how do you build your confidence? If you use your emotions to create, you are being confident. However, real confidence is never consistent and it has its slumps. So always learn from your mistakes. Take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. Stay committed. Trust me, I am not the only photographer who has taken a tumble. And when people ask you if you are okay, you would just go ahead and reply, yes, the camera is fine. And to be really confident, always avoid gear envy. I know, some of us can stop from looking for some good cameras online, right? Well, who doesn't? That's normal. But if you're in a field with your buddies or your co-photographers, don't let your photos depend on your gear. Just think of it as a challenge. For example, in portraiture, confidence helps you connect with and calm your subjects to bring out their inner spirit. There's a little verse in a nervous model and a nervous photographer. Even if you're not 100% sure of what you're doing, show confidence, take time, and slowly adjust your settings to get things closer to your ideas. Try and keep from getting frustrated and taking some huge adjustments to your gear, okay? That is tip number 1, ladies and gentlemen. Tip number 2, using frames. A composition photography principle you'll definitely want to get familiar with is using frames. Almost anything can be a frame in your image composition. For urban photographers, a bridge is a perfect example of a framing element. Like trees, they are usually used as natural elements for your main subject. If there's nothing in an image composition to guide the eye, the photo can seem boring or incomplete. By using a frame in your photo composition, you're creating an element that emphasizes the importance of your main subject in a way that is visually appealing, without being distracting or taking away focus. Tip number 3, guys, is leading lines. This photo composition rule can pair really well with the previous, which is framing. Basically, it refers to using natural lines or shapes to guide the eye to your main subject. The key to this photo composition is to take a big picture view of the scene you're shooting and to spot the elements that you can use as leading lines. Look for things like rivers, train tracks, doorways, or shadows, and get very creative. The principle of this composition is not just about using straight lines. You should scope your scene, like using diagonal lines, curvy, zigzag, and radial leading lines too. Number 4, find an arresting viewpoint. It's amazing how much your image can change as you play around with a viewpoint. Before photographing your subject, take time to think about where you will shoot it from. Our viewpoint has a massive impact on our photo composition. It can greatly affect the message that the shot conveys. Well, just rather than shooting from an eye level, you could try to consider shooting from high above, or down or at the ground level, from the side, from the front or at the back, from a very long way and a close-up, and so on. Last but not least is to be creative. Why am I saying this? It's literally obvious, guys, that being creative is what gives a photo a story behind. And I know this is one of the struggles that most beginners could relate to. Why? Well, for example, you can't just go and shoot someone who looks at the camera and just smiles. Unless that person really requested to take a photo for his passport or driver's license, or just wants the shoot to be really formal. So if you have a friend who likes to take a lot of photos of themselves, why not grab the chance to be creative together? There are a lot of examples to give you. Well, try exploring flow photography, throwing some leaves, or some DIY shots, or long exposures. Hair flips, hair flips, all that kind of stuff. Speaking of which, here is an example of my favorite hair flip photo. Wait for it. There. See that? Yes, that is my girlfriend. And as you can see, there's no hair flip, right? At first, taking a photo of her beside the lamp is okay, and it's a typical way of being creative. But how about this? I asked her to connect with the lamp. Now, when she tried to connect with the lamp, I tried asking her to do some back hair flip, which then results to this. You see, there's a huge difference already, right? It adds a story if a person would look at this photo. They'd rather ask, is she being electrocuted? And so on, etc., etc. Very interesting, right? But just a reminder that at the end of the day, it's not the camera that is responsible for things like composition or framing or choosing a compelling subject. That stuff is up to you. So instead of buying a new camera, why not just focus on what you have? Practice and practice. Once you outgrow your current camera, then maybe it's the time for an upgrade. Now that you are ready to take these photography tips out in the world, we can't wait to see what you capture. Try sending me a message on Instagram. I would like to see your beautiful works. This is Daryl Versosa, your friendly neighborhood photographer. Leave a thumbs up, make sure to leave a comment on what you think of this video, subscribe if you aren't already, and as always, I will see you guys on the next video.